All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I hope everybody has their book, if you have, or any version of the Chumash, as we embark on a very exciting Torah portion. There's an old Hasidic adage that says that we finally have arrived in the third Torah portion. In general, it is a concept in Judaism that the number three, and it has, in a sense, trickled into society on the whole, that the number three really is kind of a number that speaks to finally arriving at something. It is establishing a trend. That what ends up oftentimes happening is that when you're the first time out, you kind of err to one side. Second time out, you overcompensate, err to the other side, and it's finally kind of the third time where you really hit your stride and get going, which is why in Judaism, the number three establishes a trend, right? A chazaka. When you hit number three, you have a trend, and why there are many elements in Judaism that are defined by number three, which is there's the expression about the moment of Mount Sinai that says that will come the third in the month of in the third will come in the third month and bring that which is comprised of three to the nation that is comprised of three. Three, 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 three. The third is Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the third in his family. There was Miriam, there was Aaron, and Moshe was the third born in his family. In the third month of the year, Nisan, Iyar, and then Sivan. And he will take the Torah, which is comprised of three sections of the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, and give it to the nation of three, Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. So we see three is a thing. This is the third Torah portion of the Torah, and as I said, the Hasidic adage goes as follows. And it seems simple, and something that even a child in cheder can come up with, but there's profundity to it, which is oftentimes the hallmark of the Hasidic adage, which is that it seems simple on the face, but it has some significant depth to it. And it says that the book of the so far the Torah portions in order is that the Torah portion of Bereshit, the very first one, begins very happy, creation of the world, Garden of Eden. But by the time the Torah portion ends, it's quite a sad Torah portion. God has already regretted creating mankind. Right, the parsha, the end of you don't finish parsha Bereshit before you already have God state the following: that ki nichamti ki asisim, I have regretted that I have created them, which is obviously the precursor to what's going to follow with the flood. So the parsha starts off great, but ends off pretty sad. Parshat Noach begins pretty sad. The flood, the wiping out of most of humanity, etc., etc. But it ends off pretty happy because Avram is born. We already are introduced to Avram by the end of the Torah portion. We don't know yet anything really about him, just it gives us some sense of his lineage, who he was the son of, etc. And that he started off in Ur Kasdim, but then moved to Haran. This we know, but at least we've already been introduced to Avram. So the Torah portion begins, the second Torah portion begins sad, but ends off happy. Then we finally get to Parshat Lech Lecha, and the entire Torah portion is happy because we get to spend the entire Torah portion with Avram and Sarah. That's the Hasidic adage. But in a way, we're making a point that here, to a certain degree, with Avram, humanity hits its stride. And there is somebody that from beginning to end represents truly the will of God and the mission that God places on humanity and is driving the world in the right direction. That is Avram and Sarah. Till now, you didn't have that. You had Adam, who actually, unfortunately, is guilty of driving humanity in the wrong direction with the sin of the golden calf, the sin of the tree of knowledge, etc. Now, although we do ultimately say that Adam was an incredibly righteous individual, etc., but his mistake puts humanity on the wrong trajectory. You have Noah, who instead of working with humanity, kind of turns his back on humanity. So he's a human being who's heading in the right direction, but doing so alone, which is why we had in the Haftorah, when we reference the flood, the Haftorah calls it May Noach. Isaiah refers last week in the Haftorah, the section that we used for the Haftorah of last week, Isaiah refers to the flood as the waters of Noach. And Noach, or at least his publicist, can be pretty upset. What do you mean, the flood waters of Noah? I'm the one person in the whole generation who was not guilty of bringing about the flood waters. Everybody else were the catalyst of the flood water. I'm the one good guy. And you're going to call it May Noach? Like connecting me with the flood waters? Like I was thinking, I know more than one person named Melissa. I'm sure they're not too thrilled with the fact that this hurricane barreling its way through and causing devastation, whatever it is an association with them, right? There's a Hurricane Melissa. I made a point of calling at least one of them and say, could you stop? Really, have a little Rahmanis on Jamaica. But May Noach could feel incensed that the Torah that the flood should be my flood. It's not my flood. I'm the only guy who's not guilty of the flood, except in a way, says the commentaries, that Noach does carry a little guilt for the flood, in the sense that he should have tried to do more to avert it. Now we talked about last week in Shul that there really was not much that he could have done with that generation. There was just nothing there to work with. But he didn't have to walk so calmly into the ark and turn his back on humanity. We see from Avram that even though it was an exercise in futility to advocate on behalf of Sodom and Gomorrah, that did not stop Avraham from trying. And that is one of the key differences between Noach and Avram. And that's the point where we've finally arrived at not just an individual, but a couple, because it is Avram and Sarah, and then eventually their kids, that understand that humanity has to be here to serve a purpose. And it's not just them as individuals that can give themselves the pat on the back when they, at least, are the one people in the neighborhood, the one family in the neighborhood that's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because there are times where people are like that. We're like, okay, at least I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm at least doing what I'm supposed to be doing. To Avram and to Sarah, that did not suffice. Rather, as there's an old Yiddish expression about Seid nicht kein Tzadik in Pelz. Don't be a righteous person wearing a fur. Because that means that the world is freezing cold outside, but you're good. You're good because you're wearing a fur. So you're warm and the rest of the world is freezing, but I'm good. That affects your righteousness just a bit. Because you're not meant to only be concerned with yourself. And Avram and Sarah personified this. Avram and Sarah personified the fact that to be God's people means to be those that are concerned not just with themselves, but with those around them, with the world around them, and make an effort to bring the world to a better place, to a better state. And this is, we get introduced to Avram. Or in this moment, he is actually not even Avraham, he's Avram. Avram. Right? And we have the very first words that God issues to this very first Jew. And what's remarkable is this is not Avram at a early stage in his life. Anybody know how old is Avram at this moment?
75.
75 years old. The parsha opens up with Avram at 75. And this parsha is going to traverse what period of Avram's life?
75 to 100.
Right. A 25-year period. By the end of the parsha, we will have journeyed to Avram's 100th year, by the way, which is right there in the title. If you want to see this is an interesting thing. A little graph you have on page 132, if you're holding this book, 132, says that is hidden into this first statement, Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha. has a numerical value. It means we're going to talk about what Lech Lecha means in a moment, but it actually has a numerical value easily calculated of 100 because the Lamed is 30 and the Chaf is 20. So Lamed and Chaf together equal 50. And it says Lech Lecha, twice the same set of letters. So 50 plus 50 is 100. That this is going to do two things. Number one, that this parsha will journey us through till Avram's 100th year. But also, another understanding is that this parsha will begin Avram's 100-year journey that will take him from here to the end of his life. Because he will live a total of 175 years, and he is currently 75. So Lech Lecha begins his 100-year journey. This parsha will also take him to year 100. So there's two ways of understanding that Lech Lecha. Just an interesting tidbit. But we're going to talk about the fact that each one of these things is significant. Either that this is the starting point of a 100-year journey, or this parsha will take us to his 100th year, because both of those are milestones. This moment is a milestone, and his 100th year is a milestone. This parsha basically is bookended by major milestones. Let's talk for a moment about this first milestone, and the fact that this is really the first thing we get to know about Avram. Again, we referenced him, we mentioned him, but we haven't really focused on him until this moment. The parsha opens up. This is the first thing. We mentioned in the past, and when we've talked about this parsha, and we mentioned it briefly last week in Shul, that 75 years of Avram's life are left unspoken about in the Torah. And it's not because nothing major happened in those 75 years. Major events occurred, major events that define Avram, major events that gives us incredible amount of inspiration, including anybody, just some of such events. Anybody could either say it out or put it into the chat. What are some of the events that are omitted from the Torah, that the Torah leaves out about the life and times of Avram?
The idols, the midrashim regarding the
Even
idols.
before that, the very discovery of God. The fact that as a child of 3, Avram managed to, on his own, come to the realization that everything that the world was telling him was wrong. This wasn't even that, like, maybe his father was kind of hinting it to him, etc., etc. His father was not just an idol worshiper, but the chief idol worshiper. Avram's father, Terah, was the one who made the idols for everybody else. Now we have to understand that doesn't, in our world, the one who makes things just means you're China, right? You're the one who makes things. In this day and age, if you were the one that was trusted by society to make the idols, to make the gods, it was because you were the chief practitioner. This is what's lost on most people. Avram's father didn't have an idol shop because he was the most entrepreneurial. Avram's father had the idol shop because Avram's father was the only one trusted by society to actually craft their gods. He was the highest of pagan priests. He was also Nimrod, who was the most powerful king who fashioned himself as a god. He was Nimrod's right hand. Terah was no small potatoes in the in the pagan world. And this is Avram's father. And yet Avram, at the age of 3, discovers a principle based on just using his noggin, his head, which is, how can we serve the sun as the ultimate being if the sun itself gets pushed out by the moon? And the moon can't be the ultimate being because it gets pushed out by the sun. And the wind is ubiquitous and everywhere, but the wind can't be God because the wind can get blocked by a mountain. And the mountain can't be the God because it can get chopped up by a human. And a human can't be God because it could get mauled by a bear. And none of these things can be God because they all die and disintegrate. So at the age of 3, Avram begins this journey of discovery, not self-discovery, but really existential discovery. And he comes to the realization at the age of 3 that there must be a God beyond all of these things that can't be seen, that can't be touched, and can't be confined to any particular. It's a pretty impressive for a 3-year-old. When I was a 3-year-old, my biggest concern was I was going to get the lollipop from the candy man in Shul. That was my biggest concern in life, right? But Avram at the age of 3 is having these existential things, and he comes to this conviction. And as such, he defies his household, he defies all of society, and he goes searching for answers. Where does Avram end up? He
At
ends
the
up
yeshiva of Shem and Ever.
very good. He ends up at the yeshiva Shem and Ever. Who are Shem and Ever? This is Noach's son.
Noah's and great grandson.
And Noah and Shem's great grandson. Or yeah, Shem's great grandson. I say, well, that's a lot of generations in between them. No, here's another fascinating thing that most people don't realize. At this point, all of humanity has one father. All of humanity has one father. Who's that father?
Hashem.
No, I mean biological father.
Avram.
Well, not Avram, and not Adam.
Adam.
Noah
No.
is the father of all of humanity.
Right.
Every human being alive is the offspring of Noah. Right? Noah and his 3 sons and everything that comes out from them. Now, here's something that's remarkable. That we talk about this. There are a lot of people here for the first time, or this is their first cycle of going through this with us. Noah, as you can see from the genealogical chart back, it's here in this in the introduction to this page 124, 125. Noah is still alive in Avram's day. Noah, father of all humanity, the patriarch of everybody alive at that time, is still living. Now, is Noah a pagan? Of course he's not. He's a believer in one God, and he's righteous to that one God till the day he dies. But that, again, affirms for us Noah's approach and attitude towards his fellow beings, his fellow human beings, even his own offspring, who have all gone and started serving idols and are heading back into corruption. And what does Noah do about this? Precious little.
Not much.
Precious little.
Yeah.
So that by the time that Avram's around, he's got to figure it all out for himself. Because the whole world is serving idols, except for one small enclave of the yeshiva, which tradition has that it was a cave in Tzfat, and they claim to still have it. Now, is that just a tourist trap, or do they there's actually some validity to it? I don't know enough about it, but you can still go officially and visit the cave that was ostensibly the original yeshiva Shem and Aver. At least Shem and Aver get credit for teaching at least those that are interested about the truth of the one God. But none of them are taking the message on the road with them. None of them are trying to evangelize and tell people that you are wrong. Not until Avram comes around. So Avram discovers God at the age of 3. That's a huge moment. Then he goes to the yeshiva Shem Ve'ever in defiance of his family to go study. Then he realizes that he doesn't like the approach of the yeshiva in the sense that it's this monastery up on the hill that you have to go find, and then you get introduced to the truth. It's his job to introduce the truth to the world, and so he returns. He comes back to Haran, to Ur Kasdim, to Ur Kasdim, which is the capital city of Nimrod, who himself fashioned himself as a king. It was one of the reasons he built, was the main catalyst of building the Tower of Babel. He really wanted to erect a fortress in which he can establish himself as the greatest of all the gods, one that rises above the rest. And his right hand is this Terach. He reads, so Avram basically returns to what at that point is kind of the capital city of the world. Under Nimrod, this very powerful king. And he rejoins his father Terach with a mission. Now Terach doesn't know this. Terach just thinks he's being the prodigal son has returned. And Terach puts him to work in the idol shop. And the very famous midrash that tells us all the details, right? That somebody would come in to buy an idol, and Avram would say, why are you buying this idol? Well, this idol will give me blessing. And Avram would turn and say, this hunk of wood, you're a human being, at least with some sort of agency. If you want to go something, you go get yourself a sandwich. Right? You're hungry, you go get yourself a sandwich. What can this block of wood do? Nothing. It's stuck. It's sitting there doing nothing. And you think that this block of wood has the power to help you? And says people would walk out embarrassed and obviously take their business to the next idols or us, right? So Terach is coming up. He's getting a little frustrated that his son is chasing off all the business. And it admonishes Avram. Next day, Avram comes back in, and it vexes him and stresses him and disappoints him when he sees human being after human being walking in without clarity, without understanding the obvious. And so he finally gets pushed to the point where one of these people come in and say, I want to buy an idol for protection. Show me the idol for protection. And Avram says, right this way, follow me. And he takes him to this big hulking idol. So, looks all powerful, right? It's a powerful idol for protection. And Avram picks up a hammer and says, let's see how good at protection it is. Says together we're gonna stress test this idol and see if it's a good, right? Let's kick the tires of the car I'm about to sell you here, right?
Really?
Let's check. Let's see how good this this is, right? And he goes and what does he do? He winds up with the hammer, right? And like a baseball player in the World Series, right? See, I'm with the times, guys. And you gotta be with the times, right? Like let's say like Shohei Ohtani, I even know the names, right? Shohei Ohtani goes and he swings and slaps the head off this idol, sends it a mile. And the guy says, what are you doing? You're killing the idols. So, this was the idol this was the idol that's supposed to protect you. It couldn't even protect itself. I'm a wimp, says Avram, and it couldn't even protect against me. And he proceeds to smash every single idol in the shop, except for one, the biggest idol. When Terach comes back and he sees the absolute havoc, he says, what happened here? And Avram